Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another terrible case with you. As the world eased out of the horrible global setback that was the 2020 pandemic and some semblance of normalcy started to return in 2022, the last thing any family needed was even more tragedy. Yet, on the 4th of September 2022, an Irish family was robbed of 3 children at the hands of another whom the deceased called brother. Our love and respect goes out to all those who knew and loved Christy and Chelsea Cawley, Lisa Cash, and all those affected by this case. On the night of the 3rd of September 2022, 26-year-old Andy Cash showed up for a family event in jeans and a blue shirt. The day marked the first anniversary of a close relative's passing, and the family came together for a small memorial of sorts. As the get-together progressed with some soft music in the background, Cash began dancing along while nursing a drink in hand. He was the only one dancing, while the rest of his relatives were busy socializing. It's unclear what this did to the young man or if he'd had too much to drink, but a while later, Cash joined them. However, the interaction didn't go over well, and camera footage showed how uncomfortable the relatives looked listening to him speak. Perhaps annoyed from the reaction or whatever had ticked him off in the first place, Cash stormed out of the gathering. No one went after him, perhaps because they were relieved that he was gone or that none expected what would follow next. Outside, Cash stepped out to the curb and flagged down a taxi. He gave the driver an address for Rossfield Avenue, Tallaght, in southwest Dublin, and stumbled into the back of the vehicle. It was the early hours of the morning of the 4th of September when Cash finally arrived at his destination. Rather than paying the fare and sending the driver on his way, the 26-year-old stumbled into the house. Indoors, he found his 18-year-old sister, Lisa Cash, up watching TV in the living room. Andy must have asked her for some money to settle the fare because that's when things got heated, and they both started to raise their voices. Meanwhile, in one of the bedrooms shared by their 14 and 8-year-old brothers, the former was woken when Andy entered the house. The 8-year-old, named Christy on the other hand, remained fast asleep. The 14-year-old, whose name remains confidential, heard Lisa tell Andy that she didn't have any money for him and that he shouldn't be in the house. Andy's response to this was to go into the kitchen and fetch the biggest knife he could find. The 14-year-old, who was awake unbeknownst to his older siblings, stepped out to investigate the sudden silence in the house when he saw Andy launching at Lisa with the knife. She screamed and tried desperately to defend herself before making a run for the stairwell, but Andy just kept stabbing and slashing until his sister was a bloodied mess at the foot of the stairs and hanging on by a thread. The 14-year-old who witnessed one sibling murder the other was alarmed and darted back into the room. His movements may have alerted the murderous Cash, who then made it up the stairs, possibly to tie up loose ends. Meanwhile, inside the shared room, the 14-year-old tried waking Christy and hurrying him out of the room before their manic older brother showed up. But before the 8-year-old fully came to, Cash entered the room, knife in hand. Terrified, the 14-year-old hurried to the window and dropped to the ground floor before scampering away to get help. A member of the public found him underdressed and absolutely stricken by panic.
Chaos and confusion. That's how one neighbour described the scene on this suburban street in the small hours of this morning. Gardaí, Irish police, were alerted to a violent incident at a house in the Dublin suburb of Tallaght at around 12:30 a.m. They arrived to a horrific scene with several young casualties believed to have been stabbed and an active suspect.
The taxi driver, who was still waiting by the curb, heard a scream but could not place its location, so he made no effort to involve the authorities. However, that soon changed when a bloodied Cash emerged from the house and ordered the driver to call 999 before returning to the house. At this point, he had already finished with Christy and moved on to the 8-year-old's twin, Chelsea, who was still probably in bed when her older brother set upon her with a knife. The Emergency Response Unit, ERU, was the first at the scene and showed up to a rather horrid sight. Cash stared down at them through one of the upstairs windows. He was erratic and aggressive, which prevented the authorities from barging into the house right away. That, of course, was until Cash started to toss things out of the window, including a TV. But what tipped the scales was when he held and dangled Christy's lifeless body from the window before letting it drop to the ground in front of the ERU. The Gardaí, who had arrived at the scene and witnessed Cash's disturbing antics, hurried to breach the house and take him down, but he repelled their entrance. As the tussle continued, members of the ERU seized the moment to force their way in. They then promptly surrounded Cash, who was still violent and unstable, and subdued him with non-lethal weapons. With the 26-year-old out of the way, the authorities began combing through the house. That's when they discovered Lisa by the stairs, who was still hanging on. Upon pushing further into the house, they discovered Chelsea, who was long dead. Prompt medical intervention did little to help Lisa, who soon became the third casualty of her older brother's mad rampage that morning. All three victims had suffered multiple stab and slash wounds, especially around their torsos, faces, and necks. Lisa suffered 71 injuries, Christy 107, and Chelsea 65. The 14-year-old was the only sibling who had escaped almost unscathed.
3 young lives ended. 18-year-old Lisa Cash, alongside her sister and brother, Chelsea and Christy Cawley, twins, just 8 years old, a family devastated, a neighborhood in shock.
The mind of a killer. The internal workings of a person tend to spill outward sometimes, past whatever facade they wear to keep it in. That, perhaps, was the case of Andy Cash. Although there was no predicting that he was capable of murders, let alone taking out his own family, aspects of his life uncovered by authorities show that Cash may have been dealing with mental health struggles. The first peek at this behavior in this story is how he danced alone in a room full of people he called family. Granted, that might have been a coincidence. However, details of his social life only back the argument, painting Cash in the light of a paranoid loner. That contrasts sharply with the image of a loving older brother that he portrayed to the public. Records retrieved from Cash's Facebook account reveal how much he supposedly cherishes the same siblings he murdered. In a post made on the 11th of March 2017, Cash shared a photo of himself and a young Lisa on her communion day, whom he also tagged in his caption that read, "Happy birthday to our Lisa Cash, XOX. Hope ya have the best day, girl. I love you," followed by several love heart emojis. His Facebook also held photos of the twins, Christy and Chelsea, whom he'd murdered at just 8 years of age. "My whole life, Christy Chelsea," read Cash's post on the 21st of January 2018, with a collage photo of the twins at an even younger age. There were more posts about the twins on his page, including one where he tagged them to a photo with the caption, "My World," another with the caption, "Our twins twinning it today." They never take a proper photo, with several emojis, yet another picture with the caption, "Our little lady and gentleman," and finally one where he added, "My life," to their picture. These outward professions of love and family sharply contrast with the erratic murderer who killed his sister and 2 sleeping kids for no apparent reason. A deeper dive into his past revealed that Cash had had a run-in with the Gardaí before, when he was brought in for questioning as a suspect in a case of stolen items at a homeless shelter he resided at in the city center. He was questioned over a stolen phone, and his room was searched by Gardaí, said a source. There were no charges brought against him, though. Cash living in a homeless shelter perhaps clarifies why Lisa said he shouldn't be in the house before she was brutally murdered. It may also explain his relationship with his family up until that point, and why no one bothered to go after him during his dramatic exit from the family get-together. There may also have been telltale signs that Cash's mental health was in a decline. Sunday World found harrowing voice messages of the 26-year-old who was under the illusion that his Facebook account had been hacked. Rather than fix the problem if that were the case, Cash blamed others for his troubles instead. A deep dive into his social and love life revealed that Cash, who is gay, frequented bars in the Dublin city centre, like Street 66, Panty, and George. But here's where we get some form of confirmation about Cash's mental state, because despite being a regular at these places, he was alone most of the time. That meant whether it was with family or strangers, he mostly stuck to his own company. Although being a loner is no crime, one with the paranoia and drinking habits of Cash is a ticking time bomb. One of the regulars at these gay bars who knew Cash described him as sometimes had an odd pal or two with him, but he was generally a bit of a loner. He would sit at the bar on his own, but bizarrely start rambling and talking to himself. He never seemed to have a boyfriend and met lads now and again in the bars, at house parties, or on Grindr. He was a bit of a smoker, but was also paranoid about picking up the virus during lockdown.
14-year-old brother was also injured, and the children's mother was taken to hospital too, though her wounds are not physical.
This is a particularly sad incident. It's a family incident, I understand. And, what else can I say except express deep shock? It's a terrible happening, and people are visibly upset.
Conviction and sentencing. Despite the scale of the tragedy that had befallen Cash's family, it wasn't until his sentencing hearing that the details of the unfortunate event were revealed to the public. The family released a heartbreaking victim statement before Cash's sentencing.
In a victim impact statement read to the court, the children's mother Margaret, as well as their surviving brother and sister, said there were no words to describe the pain they had to live with every second of every day. They said the lives of 3 innocent, beautiful, kind and loving children were viciously taken before they had a chance to live them.
Our 3 innocent children were viciously taken from us, and that was the day the world stopped turning. What is left is our broken family, and every day since has been unbearable. We miss everything about them, hearing their voices, their laughs, the conversations we would have, the games we would play as a family, the hugs and kisses that we won't ever get from them again. The only thing that hurts more than losing them is knowing how much they have missed out on, how they never got to finish school with their friends, or learn how to drive a car, or get the chance to see the world. It's not just what was taken from us that hurts. It's how their whole lives were taken from them, before they even had a chance to live them. Lisa, Christy, and Chelsea deserved so much more from life. They deserved to grow old and live their lives, however they would have chosen to have families of their own. They were the most beautiful, kind, and loving children in the world. We will cherish every memory made with them and love and miss them forever. Cash was present for the proceedings, but only spoke once to plead guilty to all 3 charges of murder for each of his deceased siblings. His attorney, Brendan Grehan SC, revealed to the court that Cash had been under the assessment of a psychologist and 2 psychiatrists since being held in custody in September 2022. Grehan then added that Cash asked to apologize and said that he was sorry for his actions and sorry to the people he has hurt.
Defence counsel Brendan Grehan said his client had been assessed by 2 psychiatrists and a psychologist. He said Cash was sorry for his actions and for all the people he had hurt.
Before sentencing Cash to the mandatory terms for murder, which is life imprisonment in Ireland, the presiding judge, Mr. Justice Paul McDermott, called the evidence deeply traumatizing, explaining that it was devastating to have 3 children killed on the cusp of their lives. Nothing I do or say today can in any way help in that, he said. My function today, having heard the evidence of 3 lives lost in the most appalling circumstances, is simply to receive the evidence of lives lost and damage done, and to impose the only sentence that can apply in a case of this kind. Cash was given a life sentence on each count of murder, with each set to run concurrently. The judge concluded the proceedings by offering the family his heartfelt condolences.
Mr. Justice Paul McDermott said the case was deeply traumatising and the family had suffered an acute loss of children on the cusp of their lives in the most appalling circumstances. He imposed the mandatory life sentences and he said the fact that there were 3 victims should be taken into account at a later date when matters are further assessed.
Do you think there's anything that could have been done to prevent this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more videos like this, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more true crime videos. Until next time, bye for now.